Hey peeps, I'm going to get right into it today because this release demands attention and there's just too much to say about this mammoth box set that I love. I'm going to get right into it. Talking about Prince, of course. Prince, one of the finest albums of all time, in my humble opinion. This was the box set for 1999 that came out, and damn, this thing's heavy. There are a lot of records stuffed in here. I mean, look at this. There's, it's quite the set. And this is truly inspiring. If you want to get a box set and make sure your money is well spent, you look no further than this box set. It's got a slightly different cover. The original cover is purple. This one's, got the silvery cover with the white star motif going on. But this is a celebration of one of the finest albums that has ever graced our earth, 1999. This came out, I think, in 2019. It's just, yeah, I think this is a good 4 years old. Maybe not quite 4 years old. Maybe 3 years old. 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember. I haven't explored. I'm going to stop holding this because I'm going to break my back. This thing's huge. Here's the back, though. I want to show this. Speaking of backs, here's the back. You got some lyrics for the track itself, 1999. And I'm going to start pulling out the records here. While I do that, I'm going to explain. There is absolutely nothing I can say about 1999 that has not already been said. There's just nothing I can say. So all I can do is offer my experience with it. This came out in 1982. I was a toddler, right? But if you were alive on this planet and you were listening to music, old enough to hear music on the radio, or your parents bought records or whatever it was, you could not get away from Prince. You couldn't do it, and you didn't want to. Prince was an unstoppable, immovable force in the 80s. He had a reign of albums that is almost incomparable. Like there's the Beatles and there are a few others, and then there's Prince, and that is not an overstatement. I know it's easy for younger people to perhaps look back at that time that they weren't alive in and dismiss Prince, but that's a mistake. You guys who were alive during this time know what I'm talking about. Prince owned the world. I mean, he was fascinating to us. Visually, he looked interesting. He was a good looking guy. He dressed in a different way. He had a very interesting aura to him. But that was just a very small piece of his puzzle. You filled in all those complex puzzle pieces with his music. And his music was unlike anything we had ever heard, and it still is. This era. I think, Prince slid. I don't have much interest in anything Prince did post Batman soundtrack. And I think the Batman soundtrack is questionable too. It's not my I think that's when Prince started to slide. Excuse me. He started to skid with the Batman soundtrack. But pretty much everything he did up through Love Sexy was brilliant in its own very unique way. Never more so than this. Now, Sign of the Times is close for me personally. This is part of the fun of Prince, though, right? Like, we all have favorite albums on different days, or we just have favorite albums. Period. I know plenty of people think Purple Rain is his greatest album. There's an argument there. That is a fantastic album. For me, it's this and Sign of the Times. It's hard for me to decipher between the two some days. Those are 5 years apart, though. In my opinion, between 1982 and 1988, this man had was on a roll that is unmatched in the history of music. He could not produce a bad song. He had so much stuff rattling around in his head, not just his own stuff too. He was writing for other artists too. I don't use the word genius very often. I don't know that I've ever used it on this channel, but this man he was from a different planet. He was so inspired and had so many unique ideas. And he had so many influences. When you listen to this guy's music, it is absolutely undefinable. You cannot define this music, and that's why it's so glorious. And to be able to do that and be a huge star is almost unprecedented. It's so rare when an artist is able to do what they want to do, make no compromises for it, sound incredibly forward thinking, totally breaking barriers, complete original, and have top 10 success. It is nearly unprecedented. Again, we have the Beatles and a few other bands, but it doesn't happen. It certainly doesn't happen much anymore. I can't even think of any modern examples where it has happened. But this is one of those few times in history that it did. And I think that's why this album is worth talking about, because this was the album, I think, that showed the world that this dude was an alien from a different planet. He was not among us. He had a different vision, a different agenda that went beyond our understanding. This guy had vision. Like, it's like watching 2001. You watch it and you're like, I don't know what this is. I love it, but this is beyond my understanding. That's what this guy did. You can dismiss him all you want now if you didn't hear his music in context within that time it came out. But that would be a mistake. It really would be. And I urge any of you who like my channel and you enjoy what I talk about to take time with this album if you've never done that. I'm taking this out of its slipcase right now. But to dismiss Prince is a huge mistake. This man was an alien. I don't know how else to. I don't know how to explain it. Any other way to explain this? The vision this guy had, and his vast influence on music culture of the time and even now. But to me, taking all this in, his look, his whole aura, the real magic is with his music. He backed it up, man. Lots of people looked like this. I mean, not like him, but I mean, dressed like this, had interesting looks, but they didn't deliver the goods. Prince did. He gave us what we didn't know we wanted. You know what I'm talking about? Like every half century, maybe we have an artist that comes along, and they're like Leonardo da Vinci. They come along and they're not interested in giving us what we want. They're interested in giving us what we don't know we want. And that's what Prince did. This music didn't have a name. It defied all of your goofy genres. It was completely in its own air, in its own orbit. And to try to break it down with a genre tag is just stupid. It's silly. Pure silliness. And I know I talk about that a lot on this channel, genres, but it's true. And that's why I want to talk about this album, because, you know, trying to deconstruct, you can deconstruct music, that's fun, but deconstructing it in a way that is just trivializing it with a one word term is just, it's not fair. You're not using your brain when you do that. And this album demands a high attention span and a big brain. And lyrically, at this time, lyrically, Prince, he was all about pussy. I mean, I'm just going to say it. He was, he was a raging hard on, like all of us guys are at this age. He was in his 20s when he made this. So his main impetus and his lyrical inspiration was pussy. I mean, that's what he sung about. But the music that was swirling around it, and he did it in such a poetic way that it was poetry. It was pure poetry. It was pussy poetry. Maybe hey, now we're talking about genre tags. Pussy poetry. I like it. David Frick, I think he's a Rolling Stone, right? Isn't he a Rolling Stone writer? That wonderful magazine, Rolling Stone. Really nice booklet here. Tons of nice glossy photos. the lyrics, handwritten photos of handwritten lyric. This is a really nice set. I I felt a little guilty when I bought this because I know Prince. All this shit started coming out once he died. The Prince was he had his stuff under lock and key for sure. I don't know that he ever wanted all of his unreleased stuff released. But man, well, I'll get to the unreleased stuff, but this box set represents Sign of the Time. There's a big box for Sign of the Times as well. But the stuff this man never released, mind blowing. Like you hear, I was listening to these records when I got this. These tracks are 40 years old, basically. And I was listening to the stuff he never released, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. Like, how does this shit never get released? This was better than most of the music people were putting out on their albums. Prince had so many ideas and so much creativity. I don't know how he slept. I mean, he was constantly making music. And I talk about this before, but I'm always very impressed when someone can have such a prolific career, but not release any bad stuff. Because when people are prolific, they put out a lot of garbage. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. You're experimenting and you're putting things out there and seeing if it sticks, and most times it doesn't. But with Prince, this dude couldn't stop making music, and it was always on an extremely high level. Let's look at the album. I think you're getting what I'm trying to say. I loved this album when it came out as a kid, and I still love it today. In fact, I love it more today. And I will mention this pressing's really good for a reissue. The records sound fantastic. Thick records. I'm pretty sure they're 180 gram, but you can still fuck that up. That's a big misconception, by the way, in the record industry. People just see it's 180 gram and they automatically think, oh, it's better. No, it's not. You can still fuck up a 180 gram record. If it's not pressed right, it's going to not sound right. This is an excellent pressing. It's 180 gram and it sounds good. And something that I really appreciate about the detail that goes into this box set is that each record comes in its own polylined inner sleeve outside of the printed sleeve. Record companies, are you paying attention to this? This is the way you do it. You put the record in a poly and put the printed inner outside of it. So the record doesn't tear through, and in case you need me to explain that. Brilliant packaging. Here's the other record. Here's the other inner sleeve. These are reproductions of the original inner sleeve, by the way. I do have the original US press of this. But listen, these reissues sound every bit as good as the original press, if not better. These are phenomenal. I didn't have a single flaw on this pressing, and this is full of stuffed with vinyl. There are all kinds of records in here, and none of them were less than excellent. Now, I'm going to go through the album itself and give you my thoughts. 1999, he had released, this was his fifth album. The album he put out right before this was Controversy. He had put out a string of 4 albums. For You, second album, Dirty Mind, and Controversy, and then this in 1982. Prince was on people's radar. People knew who he was. But when this came out, his sound took such a huge leap. It was, I don't know that people ever got their heads completely wrapped around it. What he was doing was, again, something that I don't think people knew they wanted. He took so many influences and mashed it all together onto a double album. And there's a ton of music on here. This is a double album, and each side has at least 15 minutes of music on it. It's over an hour long. These are extended jams. I think the first record is just like it's a party. Every song is an absolute party. The whole album is really. The second album, it gets a little more down tempo. There are a couple ballads. But you hear so many influences on this record that it takes dozens of listens to fully comprehend it. I've been listening to this album for 40 years and I still am comprehending it. That's how ahead of its time it was. This this album envisioned 1999 maybe being the epoch of its reach to people, but no. We're in 2023 now and I still think this album is ahead of its time. So many influences on here. You hear James Brown, you hear Jimi Hendrix, you hear Cerrone, you hear Nat King Cole, you hear Billie Holiday, you hear Funkadelic. It's all happening here, all of it. Now, on paper, you look at all those influences and you're like, there's no way this is going to work. It's not going to flow. It's not going to mix. Oh, it does. It absolutely does. The energy on this album is off the charts, indescribable. There's still, I can't think of another album that has the precise energy that this has. For a double album, for it to keep your attention unwavering for over an hour is unprecedented business. A beautiful record in our history, one of the greatest. And I'm talking about you can put your Beatles albums in there, your Pink Floyd albums in there. This is up there to me. This is a go-to for me. I never grow tired of this album. It reminds me of so many things too. I mean, I have nostalgia attached to this too, okay? I heard this when I was a very small kid. And I've listened to it over the years and it's got me through many different situations and experiences. And that's what the best albums in our lives do. It carries you through. And this album is every bit as different and creative and out of this world than any record I've talked about on this channel. You snobs can dismiss this all you want, and that's cool. Go for it. But you're wrong. 100% wrong. Sometimes, very rarely, the mass public, popular music will be legitimately awesome. And this is one of those rare instances of that happening. An album that is beyond belief. My favorite song on here personally is Lady Cab Driver. I've had to pick one. I mean, good Lord, they're all good. But Lady Cab Driver encompasses a lot of what I love about music. It's just got so many disparate influences going on, and you got to hear it to believe it. I'm not going to try to describe it. You just have to hear it. Please listen to this album. If you've never heard this, come on, man. What in the world are you doing? It's just irresponsible to not sit down and listen to this album front to back if you love music. For real, peeps. You got to do it. Now, this is where the release really starts getting fun. You get this promo mixes and B-sides. You get a nice lush gatefold sleeve. They put the printed inner sleeves inside the gatefold. And then the records themselves are inside the gatefold with the poly inners. Brilliant packaging. Love this release. I wish all record companies did this. Here's the gatefold. Let you get a nice gander of that. And yeah, this is his promo. This is like, there's 7-inch mixes. There's some 12-inch mixes. You get some B-sides like Irresistible Bitch, which was the B-side to Let's Pretend We're Married, which was a single. Irresistible Bitch could have been on the album. It's that good. This man didn't make anything less than brilliant. He had so much brilliant shit he couldn't even release it. And he couldn't release it quick enough. He was done and on to the next thing before he could even get his mind wrapped around what he'd already done. And this album absolutely proves that, man. What do you have? You have the 7-inch stereo edit of 1999. I won't name off all the tracks. The 7-inch edit of Little Red Corvette. I mean, everything. Everything. You don't need to buy any of his singles because the pressing is fantastic on this too. You get the extended mix of Little Red Corvette, Delirious 7-inch edit, the promo edit of Let's Pretend We're Married is Irresistible Bitch. Let's Pretend We're Married video version. I didn't even know that existed. Dance Music Sex Romance edit. All the singles, all the edits, all the remixes, all the B-sides. Bam. On a double album. packaged impeccably. Here are the inner sleeves. They are empty. I'm leaving them as it is because I was so impressed with the packaging of this. There's the track listing for the first record. There's the track listing for the second record. God, I love this pressing. This is one of my favorite records in my collection, straight up. I know I can't say it. I know I keep repeating that, but listen, I'm enthusiastic about this. You know, this is music that we will never hear again. You know, and we had never heard before. Now it starts getting really cool. Check this out. Yes, we're getting like unreleased shit. We have another very nice gatefold, two inner sleeves on the inside of the gatefold. I will show those. The one thing on all of our men's minds: why hide it? You know, I don't care how, I'm not interested in being woke on this channel. Men are men. We think about what we think about. That's never going to change. You know, you are not going to erase with one generation of propaganda. You're not going to erase what it has taken billions of years for evolution to create. Men are men, and we like what we like. And Prince didn't hide that. Here's the gatefold. Really, really nice. Like this is, I think a lot of you who buy records, you probably notice these days this never used to happen, but on the edge of the opening of the sleeves, you'll notice little perforations. You can tell another jacket was stuck to it, and the pressings ripped it off. Not here. Nice smooth surface. Phenomenal pressing. One of the best collections on vinyl I've ever bought. I'm proud to own this. Track listing: Fill You Up, Irresistible Bitch, blah, 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 blah. Money Don't Grow on Trees, Vagina. Irresistible Bitch is a different version, by the way. This is all unreleased stuff. I'm not going to read all these. Something in the Water Does Not Compute, original version. This also has the original version of Delirious, which is like a 6-minute track. I don't know. I thought it would have sounded great on the album in its full form here, but Prince chose to never release it. The songs on here are so fucking good. It's beyond belief. This stuff never got released, y'all. These could have been singles, I think. You could have put this on the radio and people would have bought them. I mean, Prince was a machine. And lots of people are machines. They can pump out bad music all day. But when you pump out consistently brilliant stuff, well, that's a different story. A full double album. We're talking like over an hour's worth of unreleased shit right here. So you get the album, the double album, you get the double album of B-sides and edits and remixes. Then you get another double album. We're up to 8 albums now of glorious goodness. We're up to 6 albums. Sorry, there's 8 total in here. I listen. Sometimes I get excited. Maybe it's 10. Yeah, I don't even remember now. I'm gonna find out as I go through this. I thought it was 8, but it looks like there's another one in here. Check this out. We have more unreleased stuff. You get a total of 4 full albums of unreleased shit on this release. Once again, I'll break out the inner sleeves. They are inside the gatefold. Yes, indeed. Handwritten notes. Here's the other inner sleeve that's inside the gatefold. More written notes. These are master tapes, by the way. Like, reel-to-reel tapes. That's what you're seeing on the cover here. Records are housed in their poly-lined inners. Here is the gatefold. And you get Possessed, 1982 version, Delirious full length. I talked about that already. Purple Music. Purple Music. What a great song this is. How in the hell did this never get released? So impressive. Yeah, Moonbeam levels. Look, it's filled with great stuff. There's a demo version of Little Red Corvette on here. Head, another B-side. All unreleased tracks and versions. Now we're up to 8 records, okay? 8 records and the booklet and the slipcase box. This is absolutely worth it. Okay, so there are 10 records total. This is a 10 record set. You get a live album. Now, I haven't listened to this yet. I've already stated my opinion on, how I feel about live albums. I do plan on listening to this. It is Prince. I did see him live once, by the way. It was in the late 80s. It was the Love Sexy tour. He never came to my town, and he didn't come to my town very often then. Prince live doing his thing. And this is the inside of the gatefold. Prince doing his thing. This is live in Detroit, 1982, November 3rd, 1982. This was the 1999 tour, man. You can see the track listing. He was knocking out cuts from 1999 and some other stuff. Like, let's see, Let's Work, Head, Uptown. These are older. These are older songs. So he was mixing it up. He didn't do just 1999. So a full double live album. And you know what? I haven't listened to it. I don't know what the sound quality is. I'm assuming it's a really good mix. The quality of everything else on this box is such an absurdly high quality. I could only assume that it sounds pretty fantastic. And honestly, I wouldn't care if it didn't sound good anyway, because the other 8 albums are absolutely worth the purchase for this. This could have not had the live album, and I still would have paid the price I paid for it. I think I bought this for was it 200? 200 bucks? I think I got it. I got it as a Christmas gift. One of the greatest Christmas gifts I've ever received. My family knows, they know me, obviously. They know what I want. You don't buy me clothes. You don't buy me things I actually need. You buy me vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Who needs food? Who needs to eat? Who needs shelter? Yeah, they know me. And I know this. And you should know it too. Honestly. Like I mentioned before, there's nothing that I can say about this album that hasn't been said. I can only talk about my personal experience with it. And you guys know already that I absolutely love music. It's part of not only my daily grind, but it's with me every minute of every day. Music is the most important outlet I have to feeling more human. It makes me feel more emotional. It makes me connect to people. Just like I'm here on YouTube connecting with you guys. Music is a collective to me, both mentally and physically. Music brings me together with other like-minded people where I feel like I can connect with other human beings. And when that's true, there are most certainly going to be albums that you connect with in a deeper way, in a much deeper way. And there's probably, the albums that touch me in such a deep way are probably only numbered up to maybe 50 or so. There are that many albums in my collection where I feel that close to them. I feel that close to them where I can say that. This is one of them. For what I'm trying to say is music is really fucking important to me. All right, and you guys know this. And this is one of my favorite albums. I think this is one of the greatest albums that's ever been created by a human being in our history. It is absolutely wonderful to listen to, even right now in 2023. It hasn't aged a day. And I am forever grateful that Prince existed. With the exception of Sign of the Times, I think 1999 is his greatest achievement and one of the greatest albums this world has ever seen. So if you haven't listened to this yet, holy shit, what are you doing? I always say this, but if you respect my opinion, and I know most of you do, and you haven't taken time with this album, open your mind, put away your other albums that I've been talking about, and experience this. You really should. Mm. And this box set, man, you don't have to buy the records either. I looked this up earlier before I made this video, and this is on Apple Music. So if you do have Apple Music, it's $12 a month for everything on Apple Music, and this expanded edition is on there. So you don't need to, you don't need to buy this. This is going to set you back a couple $100 at least, I think. So if you have Apple Music, it's on there. You can probably stream it somewhere too. It's probably on YouTube. I'll link a couple of tracks of this box set in the video. Also, always open up my description of the video whenever I post a video. I post links in there all the time, just so you guys can get kind of a concept of what I'm talking about if you haven't heard the music I'm talking about. So anyway, I'm going to end this now, but yeah, this is one of those warm, fuzzy feelings I get with music. Ugh, amazing. Prince came from another planet, and he landed with a thud, and he changed the entire landscape of how we listen to music. There are only a handful of people in history that have ever done that. This dude was one of them. Forget about all the shit he put out after Batman. I mean, he lost his way. Whatever. It doesn't matter. When you build a foundation like he did in the late 70s and throughout the 80s, you can put out whatever crap you want after that. You've already proved yourself. And Prince did that. All right. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you next time.